We are at the Long Beach Grand Prix. So we're at Turner Motorsport today. We're going to do a meet and greet with the team real quick, momentarily. We have representation from San Diego, Heartland Chapter, Golden Gate, and LA chapters here.
Hey guys, thanks for coming. I don't know if we're going to need this, but normally when we do this kind of meet and greet or whatever, either they start the car up or the car next door gets started up and nobody can hear me. Or the Mazda MX-5s magically appear and make all sorts of noise out there. Thanks for coming. Looks like a little different day than yesterday where we qualified with a bright sun. I don't know if this is better for us or not as good for us, but I'll take it. I like the breeze and the coolness rather than the hot sun. For those of you who have witnessed this race or whatever, been here before, this is the shortest race we have of the season, meaning time-wise. And Don Salama's strategist, will talk a little bit about that. We qualified fifth. Patrick Gallagher qualified fifth yesterday, which is great. Of course, we'd always want to qualify better, but fifth is pretty good because all these cars are very close in lap times. I think separating first to 10th place is less than 0.3 of a second, maybe 0.4 of a second. And beyond that is also pretty close. There's an outlier. The car that's on the pole was a little quicker than everybody else. And then there's a couple cars in the back that didn't get a very good qualifying time, but we expect them to be fast as well. This season in IMSA, the balance of performance has ensured that all these cars are really close in lap times, very capable, which is good and it's bad. If you previously had an advantage, it's not so good because they took that away. But if you didn't have an advantage and somebody was kind of an outlier being faster, then that's good for you, right? One of the things that's very difficult on this racetrack is passing. It reminds me, not quite on the level of Formula One, but a couple of years back there was no passing in Formula One, right? And this racetrack is very difficult to pass because there are no real zones that you can outbrake anybody, and the cars are so evenly matched in horsepower and acceleration that you just can't pass anybody on the straight. The quality of drivers out there in this class are amazing, and again, you can't really capitalize on your competitors making mistakes driving either. So Don, as a strategist, has a job to do. If we're in fifth place, maybe we lose a spot, maybe we gain a spot at the beginning, but we're going to have to make a pit stop, and he's going to have to try to jump some cars in the pits because knowing it's going to be very difficult to pass in a straightaway. Also, Jay O'Connell over here, who's the engineer, he also wants to figure out how to make the car the best for this afternoon's race after the track is going to change with all the rubber from the Indy cars and other races happening before our race. So we have two different jobs to do. We have Jay that's going to have to make a call on the car setup to set it without practice before, because we don't have a practice today. We just go out there and race, knowing that the track is going to change, and then Don with strategy. So we'll have Don talk first a little bit about that, and then we'll get Jay to tell you what he does to try to make the car good for the race.
Hi everybody. I love this race because the last two races was 12 hours and 24 hours long. So I have to sit in this metal box for 24 hours. It's miserable. Today I get to sit for 100 minutes.
Yeah, you're
All right,
talk louder.
we're good. So as he implies, most of the passing that's done at this track is in the pits. And for those of you who don't watch a lot of racing, that doesn't really make sense, does it? So this pit lane is 43 seconds long if you just sort of drive through it. Everybody in this race will have to stop once, most likely. Every car basically goes about the same amount of distance on a fuel tank, about 65 minutes. It's a 100-minute race. So basically, after 35 minutes, guess what we do? We come in, we take some fuel, and we should be able to finish the race on that tank of fuel. And to fill up this car, after 35 minutes, it'll take about 22 seconds. So in 22 seconds, I could change 4 tires and put a new different driver in 22 seconds. It's actually very realistic. However, I'm going to tell you our strategy last year. I'm not going to tell you our strategy this year because you're going to walk over to Ferrari and Lexus and Porsche and tell them. But you might get a hint from
they all look like they're going to
right.
do that,
You're going to definitely go over to them, right? It's definitely not them. We hate Lexus. Never mind. So long story short, we made a decision last year when we stopped to not change tires. And everybody says, wouldn't new tires go faster than old tires? The answer is yes. In general, there's a big difference between a new tire and old tire, but this is a roughly what they call low degradation track. So the difference between your fastest lap on a new tire and your slowest lap on an old tire is probably about a second or so. A lot of tracks it's 2-3 seconds plus over a course of time. So having a new tire here for a short period of time, you'd say, oh great, I can drive around all the guys with old tires. That's actually not so clear here. And it's actually very difficult to pass even with new tires. That's problem number one. And problem number two, if you put a new tire on a car and you leave the pit lane, it doesn't actually go fast right away. You know why? That tire is very cold, and guess what happens as you heat up a tire? It gets stickier, it gets hotter, it gets into its groove and to its optimal lap time, but it takes probably 2 laps at least to get there. So guess what happens if you don't change tires? You leave pit and you're fast right away. And that's what we did last year, and we went from P7 to P2 within 3 laps. Because we came out of the pits and he was super fast for 3 laps where everybody else was changing tires and not grippy and all that, even though we all stopped for about the same amount of time and we gained 5 spots. So don't infer anything about today's strategy around that, and don't tell anybody, but that might happen again today. One other thing, which is if you run this race, or any race actually, you get a certain fuel mileage when you go as fast as you can. But these two guys here have the ability to save a little bit of fuel and still run just as fast. And there's some tricks to doing that. I won't go into it now, maybe they'll talk about it in a minute. And so I can tell you if we save a little bit of fuel over the course of 35 minutes, that's time in the pits now, because I said we're going to stop 21, 22 seconds, maybe it'll be 20, maybe it'll be 19 seconds. And every second matters here. The difference between first, second, and third will be that time stopped in the pit lane. All make sense? So watch it today. If you can watch us in pit lane anywhere, that's the best way to see what's going on. It'll be after 35 minutes. Good?
All right, so Jay,
Yeah.
can everybody hear us in the back? It's fine? All right, cool. So Jay, first question, I want to know how many Long Beach so tight. There's another GTD car in front of us, and there's a prototype car behind us. We're hoping that the prototype car isn't stuck there for some reason, but we have to get into the pits within feet and set it up so Robbie gets out of the pits without having to push the car back. And that's a big challenge, because we could come in and do the best pit stop, but if we're jammed up by the car in front of us, it's a problem. So what goes through your head when you're coming down pit lane and all of a sudden you see that you might have to angle the car in a spot where you can't really angle?
Yeah, it's very simple, really. You just have to park the car perfectly, get out in 12 seconds, give it to Robbie, and then he leaves in the lead, right? No, Jay will let me know before I get there. As soon as I get in the pit lane, you start prepping for the pit stop, getting the belts where you need them so that Robbie can have a quick changeover. But they have a pretty good idea of what the pit box is going to look like before I get there. But sometimes it's what this pit lane is so long, I can see cars in front of me that have pitted that they may not know about. So if they're telling me the box is clear, but I see the 13 car, the prototype in front of me, I know that I'm probably going to have a tight in and Robbie could have a tight out. So it's very important. Jay will tell the signboard guy where to put the sign. I hit the sign, and then we'll do a 12-second pit stop and pass a bunch of cars in the pit lane.
So obviously that would be the perfect scenario. I think we do an 11-second pit stop and definitely pass cars. But all right, so Patrick is getting out. So Patrick, you basically have the easy job. You just have to drive a little for 35 minutes and then jump out.
Yeah, save fuel, gain spots, drive for 35 minutes, jump out. Right.
Yeah, one thing we tell the driver all the time, or Don tells the driver all the time, is save fuel, but go faster. So yeah, it's a little weird on that. And we will definitely be giving Robbie some instructions too. So Robbie, you jump in, and what happens?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for coming, everyone. It's good to see some familiar faces. Yeah, this race is hectic. As these guys have said, the pit stop's very, very short. So the driver change is critical. Patrick comes into the box, parks the car perfectly, obviously.
Every time.
Every time. I jump in, and we have a kind of a routine, think of it as a choreography, where he jumps out. I do 2 or 3 things as he's getting out. Place my left shoulder belt on this magnet that we have. And as he's like halfway out of the car, I'm actually sticking my right leg in the car, and I fall in the car behind him. I grab my left lap belt as I'm falling in the car, click it in, grab the right one, and we have this choreography that if we do it perfectly, like completely perfect down to a science, we can do 10. We've done 10 and a half before. The challenge here is the pit wall's on the right side of the car. So the driver has to go from the pit wall to the door. So that, a 12 or 13 second change here is very, very good, which we did last year. We have to repeat that. We've been practicing. Yeah, imagine you're all in your car with a harness on. You got to get out, and then another person has to get in 12 seconds. It's very hectic, but yeah, hopefully we do it well today.
So some questions for the drivers. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you save fuel by maintaining pace?
Oh yeah, the question is how do you save fuel by maintaining pace?
It's a secret. Well, that's yeah. If you think about it, when you're using fuel, when you're on the gas pedal, right? And how do you go fast? Generally, you use the gas pedal in between the corners. In how we drive the car, we can change how we enter the corner. Maybe do a little bit of lifting and coasting into the corner. So you lift off the throttle a little earlier, but the car doesn't slow down as much as you may think, right? So then you brake a little bit later. The person that does that the best loses the least amount of time. So saving fuel for any driver in principle is common sense, right? But it's about how do I do it in a way to lose the least amount of time. Different corners reward different types of fuel saving. Now we have a completely different animal this year with energy saving. Now they convert fuel to energy, and the conversion is easy, but how the car responds is a little bit different. So we're working through some different techniques to refine that. But basically lift and coast and don't use the gas pedal as much.
While going the same speed.
Yeah, great question.
What do you guys think of Miatas?
What do you think of Miatas, knowing both these guys have driven them?
Yeah, I mean, there's 4 or 5 guys here that all came out of MX5 Cup. I won the championship in 2017. Him and I raced against each other that year at the end of the year. I think we went 1-2 at Laguna for the World Finals. Certainly a good training grounds. Great car, but it's no BMW.
Yeah, Patrick and I, obviously our early career started racing. I've raced Spec Miata, MX5 Cup, basically every version of it. So yeah, it was a great place to start. Taught us really good racecraft, and those cars, if you watch those races in IMSA, they're always on top of each other. So any little tiny mistake you make and where you place your car, you're paying the price, and that sets a good foundation for driving these cars and stuff. They race and drive totally differently, but it's a great training ground.
So anything you do like before a race, like get in the zone, like repeat the question.
Anything you do before the race to get in the zone? I would say, we'll see if Will agrees, Robbie and I are pretty laid back, easygoing. I personally don't do anything. Make sure I have all my gear, which 2 years ago here I didn't, and my teammate had to run down pit lane and get me some stuff. But yeah, just make sure you got all your stuff. You go through all this part of the day leading up to the race. For us, this is actually the hard part. Once we get in the car, we kind of know what we're doing. So once you get in the car and get strapped in, do the pace laps, you feel a lot more in your element than the rest of the day.
Yeah, I would agree with all that stuff. For me personally, I think there's always, at these kind of events, a lot of outside noise. It's a very hectic environment. It's loud. When you're on the pit stand before you get in the car, you're listening to everybody talk on the timing stand, which is a lot of talking. To decide what to do is the best. For me, I, like Patrick, pretty chill, don't really have anything specific, but I have a routine as I'm putting my helmet on. I just do it the same every time, which helps me go from a noisy, crazy environment to kind of a calm environment, which sounds silly before you jump in a car, but you want to have a very calm, clear head.
Robbie, you forgot to mention your pre-race poop.
Every now and then, you know.
Let's be real. Come on, Robbie.
Sometimes.
They definitely have little routines and stuff.
Yeah, routines for sure.
Routines. Good question.